Hi, everybody. So we are here today. We've gathered two of the best walleye fishermen I know around, Jeff Chisholm, Greg Amiel. We picked these guys because they are the best all through Ontario, Canada, Quebec, everywhere you can possibly think of to fish walleye. I know these guys have fished it, so thanks for coming, Jeff. Greg, thank you.
It was just because you would stay in the same room and get along.
Well, that's true. Tournament fishermen. So purpose of this is to just have a really casual conversation. And I'm going to try and extract as much knowledge out of you guys as we can. Everything from science of fish, all the different bodies of water you guys have fished on, how to get past tough fishing, all of it. So I'm going to start with, we're all Bay Quinte guys here. Greg charters all through the spring and fall. He's my tournament partner in spring fishing. And of course, you're a legend on the Bay. So let's just start off with, how do we fish walleye in the Bay? Who wants to lead the charge? You want to start with ice season because there's still ice on?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. Well, you start with drilling a hole. Sure. Actually, that's how I met Greg. Yep. That's how we met. How long ago was that now?
15 plus.
Anyways, yeah, probably at least to 20.
20.
Yeah. Yep. We ice fished together first, and then we started fishing in the boat together.
Yep.
So you were guiding, there was the ice team back then?
Quinte ice fishing team with Paul McTaggart.
Yep.
And that's how we met Greg. But I don't know if we've ever had a day on a boat together. We haven't had success, even on the tough days.
We've always produced. I always told Ben, when he asked me about this podcast, I'm like, I'm only coming to learn more secrets from this.
Well, I just regurgitate yours.
No, we had some fun times on the ice, though.
Yeah.
I mean, great days, 14 plus pound fish on the ice regularly.
I even remember one giant perch you got.
Yep.
Remember that one?
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
I had always heard that there was a bunch of American guys that you would bring up, and you guys extracted just a ton of cool techniques, different things. So if there was one thing that came from the South that you learned from hanging out with all those different clients, what is it?
For me, it kind of set the whole course. It was the jigging rod.
I was just going to grab.
It was right there. Because up until then, I never used one here. And they introduced me to that. And that changed everything for me.
As they were masters.
They were absolutely. If there was one fish left in the Bay of Quinte, those guys would hunt it down and catch it. The fish circles around me any day.
So what's the theory, Greg, on what makes the jig and wrap so different? And then I'm going to ask Jeff his opinion too. But
I think it's just their technique of the way they works the bait. Most guys just snap, or these guys really finessed and knew how to move these fish, even all the way down to the way they tied the lure, the line onto the lure. These guys were masters at it. So you pick up little tips from there, you refine it. Jeff has his technique, I might have mine, but it's just amazing learning and understanding what everyone does, and it does produce more fish eventually.
Whenever I fish this, I've had some great success with it too. I've had lots of people tell me, cut the nose hook off so it doesn't hook on the edge of the ice. I got people, they hook them on the back, they hook them on the middle, they do head only. So tell me, in your guys' experience, if I'm going to try jig and wrap. I'm going to go to Tackle Depot, I'm going to buy a jig and wrap, and I'm going to take it out. Where do I want to start with it? I get pinching the head off and going on the middle treble, for those really finicky days for them. But where are you guys starting with it? And what size are you starting with? Are you starting big and going small? Are you starting small? Like this year I watched Checo, a buddy of mine, he went like 8 in a row on a super small one. And I always start big and work small. And he was just, whoop, whoop. Okay.
Yeah, I think I've caught almost more on the size 5 than I have the 7, but I've got many on the 7. So it's one of the two. And probably if I've been having to downsize for a while, then I'll just start with the 5. But the 7 is probably where I generally would start. And if I get denied a few times, then I'll try 5.
Minnow on the back, minnow on the front.
So for me, what I do is I take the stock middle hook off and put a size 4 short shank. Short shank is kind of key because if it's the longer shank, it'll flip around and hook on the top a little more.
Yep.
Size 4 short shank. And then another little trick is that swing the treble hook back like it is in the package, so the two 2 points are straddling the body.
Yep.
Down one is where the head on. So when you go forward, head flips up underneath and it glides better.
So how do you get it to stick back like that?
So because it doesn't turn on that, it's no swivel or anything there, or there's no split rank. So it'll just
Kinda
swing back.
Okay.
Shoots forward.
Fair
So it
enough.
glides better that way. So I will use either a hole or a head, but a lot of the times the head's the key. Yeah.
That's what I find.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of days, but also if you're having a slower bite, it's general rule of thumb in fishing, downsize your bait, finesse the fish, don't use as big. So like Jeff said, use that head and you might have more success.
The key is observing the fine details. And this would be this entire conversation. I remember 15 years ago, there was a day where it was a tough day out there. We were talking on the water. You were in your boat. I was in my boat. And I picked up a couple fish on a bait. You asked me, which knot are you tying? Here. And I was like, it's Greg. Because how is that affecting the action of the bait?
Are you using a snap? Are you using a yacht? Are you using a snap swivel, which I'm against on crankbait? I think all of that really plays a big part.
Yeah, almost don't have jewelry.
Yeah.
The one that blew my mind is we were down fishing Hay Bay way, and we were running harnesses, and Greg was working them right and left, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, it's a single blade day. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh no, it was a double blade day. They would only hit a double bladed worm harness, not a single. I was like, who pays attention to that? But apparently you do. Yeah, some of those fine details is just, whoa.
Well, I think in any kind of fishing, it's not just the one item that's causing the bite. It's the whole recipe, right?
Yep.
And getting each ingredient of that right, whether it's speed, temp, whatever it might be, right? There's something.
Yep.
And putting all of that together is when you're going to just take it from some success to quite a bit more.
Just going back to the jigging wrap too. Let's say you're two buddies fishing in the same hut. One guy's jigging really aggressively, and the walleye do not want that aggressive ripping jigging pattern. They just want more of a finesse type of bite. Your buddy might be scaring most of those walleye away.
Yeah.
From your holes that are so close to
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up a topic that's hot and heavy on the bay right now. And you and I saw it. And I don't know if I should do this or not because everybody really likes forward-facing sonar. But we found this year, speaking of scaring fish, that when you're fishing shallow water with the Livescope straight down, I don't know if it was the pure pressure from this year of like fishing pressure that caused it. But by the end of the season, we were watching walleye come in and hit basically the edge of our Livescope cone and go completely around it and then go back on their path and keep going. Did you see any of that this year?
I didn't, but I didn't get as much time toward the end of the season out there.
I had a day and we were out filming with Nick actually. And oh no, it was another morning. And we literally had guys with flashers versus guys with Livescope. And the guys with flashers absolutely destroyed the Livescope guys. So I don't think the statement can be Livescope scares fish because another guy down caught a pile of them. But when we start talking about finessing, subtle differences, I think how much pressure they're experiencing and the noise from the Livescope or the pinging certainly is going to be a new factor. And going to the sportsman shows and the spring fishing show and talking to other anglers.
So there's an angler called William Coots. He's out of Wisconsin, hardcore ice fisherman and a walleye expert. I mean, he's a great fisherman, but he just did a segment about Livescope. He uses his Livescope as soon as he drills his hole, scans around. Once he's on the fish, he brings out his Vexlar and starts jigging with his Vex. And he said there is a big difference.
I think next year I'm going to get the ice transducer, just the standard traditional. And then on those days that we can see those fish coming in and they're off and they're not aggressive, I'll be pulling Livescope and going to something a little more. Again, just reduce the noise, reduce the pinging, downsize my bait, and hopefully that puts a lot more bites on. But it was funny that we've all been buying Livescopes, and You know, on that Wicked Walleye Day, you think you have 300 anglers out there. If every single one of them are sitting there pinging Livescope down, those poor fish are like, it's World War II. Like, they're just going through the sea net.
Another theory that I will put when we're fall walleye fishing or even spring walleye fishing, now that I'm using a Livescope, we've always used planer boards here. And because we want to get our boards off to the side, fish are spooky. It could be that these fish it's not the Livescope scaring them. It's the noise of the boat, the gurgling in the water, of your water in the boat in the water. It could be that those fish just do not want to go beside a boat. Is it because of the Livescope or is it because of the boat? But definitely when we're trolling for fall walleye or spring walleye, if I've got my Livescope forward, I can see fish 100 feet, 70 feet, 200 feet in front of my boat. No problem. As soon as the boat comes near, they either dive straight down to the bottom or move right or left.
Yeah.
Once we pass them, a couple hundred feet, and I've got the LBS 62, so I can see a ways out, they actually start rising back up or coming back behind the boat.
There was a reason why they wanted to be there in the first place.
Yep.
Current scene, whatever it might have been.
Yep.
The reason we wanted to be there. I relate it to kids playing street hockey. One kid yells car, they all scatter,
Yep.
and then they all come back.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt that Livescope's completely changed walleye fishing on a whole. Just for that one ice thing, we noticed that this year. But I mean, for me, when I first got into walleye fishing and we got Livescope, Matt Seeley took me out and he was teaching me how to basically run down fish in open water and pick your technique, whether you want to throw, a minnow and a jig, or a drop shot, whatever you want to throw at them, little paddle tail. But you could sit there and basically force feed them. So, I mean, I don't want anybody to watch this podcast and go, well, been saying Livescope's bad. No, I'm saying Livescope's very, very, very good. But now we're going to learn after years of having it, there's going to be a time and a place that you might change your bite just a little bit. So,
If anything, it just helps you learn your bite.
yes, 100%.
Yes, it's helping you locate fish, but it helps you figure out where they naturally want to be. So, for example, if you're seeing fish far enough away from the boat that they haven't been spooked by the boat yet, you can see how far down in the water column they actually naturally are wanting to be, and you can place baits.
My argument for all trolling is when you have the Livescope system, you can watch. How many times have you been out and you're going along and it's been an hour and a half, you're like, well, I'll change that bait out. Well, if you have the wrong spoon, the wrong flasher, the wrong whatever, we're mixing species a little bit there, but you watch the fish come in and you see the fish look at it and then he leaves and you watch them 7 do it in 30 minutes. It's like, okay, I got to change something. I'm seeing it happen.
Or we'll get into this. Is it a bite time?
Yes.
Which is also a big thing. A lot of times I know that lure is 100% proven in this body of water. That's my number one go-to. I will switch any other bait but that one. Then Soul Lunar bite time comes around and you're like, yep, they're going to go off. Your hooks start rising, everything starts rising, fireworks go off, and the rods go off. Doesn't even matter the color anymore.
Yep.
So there is that theory, yes. But, going back to the Livescope, you've taught me something on your boat with the Livescope. Is that a walleye or is that a sheephead? So I'm sitting there casting, because I wasn't experienced as you on the Livescope, and like, no, that's a sheephead. I'm like, no, that's a walleye. It's a big mark. Boom, cast to it. Oh, you're right, that sheephead.
Sheepy.
So it does help. If you're good at reading your Livescope, you can't tell what it is.
That's just, time on the water and experience. And I find you can really see on the Livescope the depth of the body really gives it away on the walleye. I find, like, if you see a big fat thick one, people are like, oh, that's 10 pounds. No, that's sheep. I mean, Bay of Quinte, we're just set default. That's a sheepy, but is it like that everywhere else? Like, where have you guys fished? Is there as many sheephead interruptions everywhere else as there is on the Bay of Quinte?
In a lot of bodies of water, it's pike.
Yeah, fair.
Like, there's a big one.
Ting.
Nope.
I fish a lot of Lake Erie as well, and there's also sheephead, white bass. There's everything in that system. So, yeah, I mean, it's harder, but Bay of Quinte has much bigger sheephead than what Lake Erie usually produces. So
As you well
there
know.
are a lot, yeah. I was just sheephead.
Yes.
So so it's a lot easier to tell a bigger sheephead on Bay of Quinte than it is, let's say, smaller sheephead that are mixed in with our walleye on Eerie.
That's true.
How many times have you beaten your own record?
Oh, that's... I was going to let him go on that one, but...
We have to.
I am proud of certain records. So what they're talking about is, I think it was 2008. A client of mine on the boat broke the Ontario sheephead record, and I'm not a big sheephead fan. They are a fun species to catch. They do fight really well, but client really wanted to get the Ontario record. He looked it up, and it was a 21.5 pound sheephead. He broke it by a pound or 2 pounds, and he went to send the fish to the ROM, Royal Ontario Museum, get it certified, get species verification certified, weight certified, and then he got a free taxidermy mount from Advanced Taxidermy because he broke the Ontario record. Well, a couple of years later, we broke it again, 22.5. And fishing with Ben, my tournament partner, in the spring, rod goes off, and we both kind of knew what it was because of the speed, the way it went off.
Eric didn't, though.
Grab the rod, it's a good walleye. And it was 24.5.
24.5.
So that was another broken one that
Yep.
we did weigh it on an official tournament scale. And then I'm like, Ben, we got to release the fish. So we released the fish, and he's like, how do we get this certified? I'm like, can't.
Yep.
So I didn't want to be known as the sheephead king, but they have labeled.
You already.
Yep. And we looked around. We think that was the Canadian record.
I would doubt.
Texas had just a behemoth one, but I think that at 24.5 was the Canadian record. That
They do have longer growing seasons.
Yeah.
So, and they're bass. You
so you're potentially unofficially have the Canadian record.
so proud.
It's March. It's raining. The ice is breaking up. Everybody talks about going to fish the Detroit River. I was watching some posts the other day, and they said that the Detroit River, it's better to fish it in May, June, but everybody goes March, April. Have you guys both fished it? Yep. Have you done it?
I actually have not fished it yet. I fished that time of year on Eerie, though.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
I've done the PWT tournaments, which is professional walleye trail tournaments, with a good buddy of mine, Nick Warner. He's a Nebraska boy, moved to Ontario, great guy. And we started doing those tournaments. Unbelievable fishery. We fished both Canadian and American side. On the American side, you can use 2 rods. It was the first time for me using, I felt like, this is wrong, but I was able to use 2 rods drifting down the river. You hook up into a 10-pounder, drop that rod, and you wind that one up, and you're controlling. So that, in case you don't know, the Detroit River has a lot of current, and you have to stay in line. It is bumper boats there. You could be 20 feet away from another boat, and you're all drifting down at 2-3 miles an hour, staying in boat control. So it's definitely fun. You need a little experience learning how to do it. Very similar to the Niagara River, if anyone's fished the Niagara River, but it's amazing.
And you have to fish it completely vertically?
Yeah, there are a lot of snags, so debris and stuff on the bottom. So if you are going to go out and cast it, you're going to be donating a lot of lead.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I've fished the St. Clair River, which was very similar. And we got there, Ron and I got there and fished the evening. And I bumped a few fish that I didn't hook up on, but I couldn't figure out that bite until I actually watched somebody from their guy that we were meeting with the next day. And I saw how he was doing it, because I was trying little hops, tried dragging, everything I could think of, and I could not get bit. It's like a lift, feel the drag, lift it, and then feel the drag, lift it, feel the drag, and bang, you're getting hit like crazy. But you had to do it exactly like that.
So one thing I noticed when I started doing in Detroit was Nobody sells 1 ounce jig head, 3/4 ounce jig heads.
Nope.
You need that heavy weight just to keep contact with the bottom.
Yeah.
Going with 1/4 ounce, what we use traditionally on the bay,
Yeah.
doesn't, you won't be able to, stay with the bottom. So
So just a traditional neon moon eye, ball head jig type.
a
1
lot of
ounce?
guys, back when I fished it, they wanted the neon moon eye style
Yep.
because it actually rode through the water column a lot better. It's a slender jig as opposed to a round ball jig head. So the water wouldn't push up on it and it won't lift off bottom as easy.
Correct. But the weight, 1.5 ounce area, where you needed to be at, on the St. Clair anyway.
Water's clear, water's dirty that time of year.
Dirtier.
Dirty.
And for you, were you finding like drift speed? Was it basically we were just slowing the drift, like pointing the bow into the current and slowing it just a little bit?
Just a little, but keeping your jig vertical was key.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, some areas of your drift you're going to have to slow down. You will slow down.
Yeah.
Because the water's not pushing as hard. And then there's some areas where you're just ripping.
Because I think you're getting a different current speed at the bottom as well as the surface too, and you have to adjust for that.
Can we put a fish hawk in that shallow?
Could. There's another good thing I must say about the Detroit, and especially on the American side. We fished mainly the American side to the tournament, and the bite was better in that year on the American side. But the etiquette was amazing. There's 30 boats in a drift all going down. And then when you're at the end of the drift, you don't pull up and just motor up and wake the other guys. They pull way out, motor up slowly, control their wake. Everyone nicely gets back into line, leaving lots of railing, and then drift down again. So it's
Crazy.
great.
Speaking, so no fish hawk. We're gonna just watch our line, I'm assuming. So we're doing like a high vis yellow, high vis green. We're gonna put a fluorocarbon leader on, like.
Yeah, I like fluorocarbon leader, a little stiffer, like 12 to 16 pound test approximately.
Yep.
Like I said, there is a lot of snags, and you want it to be a little stiffer. If you're going to a 6 or an 8, it's too limp, and it reacts differently in the water, in my opinion.
Sure.
But yeah.
There's a time and place for that.
Yeah, and color jig heads can vary depending on the water color.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's old school wine dots. I don't even know if they still make them, but it's basically a plastic that they, was very common for that area. You won't find a wine dot anywhere else in the States or in Canada, but it's a key staple for the Detroit. But I mean, there's a lot of other good plastics now that have come out, and we have stuff like the Crush City stuff, the Suspect, the Mare, the Jerks. All of those are great baits for that type of presentation.
How many fish am I expecting to catch in a day? Bow spots. Like, is this an unbelievable, like, when I'm done the Toronto Sportsman Show, I need to just get my boat and go?
Well, there's a saying, if you're fishing Detroit, Fort Erie, if you don't catch your limit, you're doing something wrong.
Okay.
20, 30, 40 fish days can be very common.
Well, that's pretty incredible.
When I was on my way to the St. Clair River is when I stopped because I was driving by Lake Erie a day I had a schedule, and I've got a boat on the back. What are you going to do? You go fishing. So I called up a friend down that way, Jerry Brooks, and said, is there a bite going on the lake at all right now, or should I just go straight to the river? And he said, no, right where you are, should be something going on out there. Well, I couldn't even engage, put out 100 feet of line and engage it, and there was a fish on. It was that fast. There was 5 fish caught in as fast as you could get the line in the water.
Nice.
Forget the number of walleye that spawn in the Detroit River, but the number is unbelievable. It's in the millions and millions of fish that go up that river. That is amazing. So I'm sure we've all seen it, and if you guys can look it up online, maybe there'll be a link to it or something, but look it up. Walleye migration on Lake Erie. There's telemetry tags that the fish are being monitored throughout the lake on the Canadian-American side, and you can see the walleye migration when it's springtime and it's spawn time. The amount of fish that vacate the east or mid-central area of Lake Erie and go all the way to Detroit, go into that area, and then they migrate back out, and they all concentrate around Pelee Island. It's amazing to watch.
So, time of year. Is it March, April? Is it May, June, like that Facebook post suggested? And same with Eerie. Like, somebody tell me where I'm going walleye fishing in the next month and a half. That's what I'm trying to fish out of you guys. Where do I need to go?
So I think fish don't go by a calendar date. Okay, they go by moon periods, and they go by temperature or temps. So if you do have a late spring, like we probably will this year with the amount of ice we've had, there could be a later spawn. When we have no ice and warmer temps on the lake, generally, the spawn does happen earlier. So that pattern can vary 2-3 weeks at least. And, it really depends where you are on the lake and where you are. And the good thing is if you do fish the north end of the south end of the Detroit, closer to Lake Erie as opposed to St. Clair, you have that option to go out to the lake, like Jeff said, and you want to put your boards out and, get some lines out and troll instead of jig. There's always that option.
So when did you smash them? Like, somebody give me a date here. End of April.
I'm going to say probably the third week.
Yep. Well, that's turkey season, though.
Yeah, it was before.
Quinny
A week or
opener.
two before the Quinny opener. Yeah.
Hey, it's going to be a busy April.
And hope.
All right, so if we went from ice fishing, we went to the rivers. Let's talk about that Eerie bite a little more, because I'm sure everybody's excited to hear it. It's easy walleye fishing there. And Hamilton Harbor, I hear about that bite a lot. Have anybody done Hamilton Harbor?
Fished it.
I haven't done it. I do have buddies who fish it. What they're doing, the M&R started stocking 100,000 walleye every alternate year between Toronto Island and Hamilton Harbor. So they're putting a lot of fish, trying to create a good fishery in the Toronto area, in the Hamilton area, for a great human fishery. So
I was reading some stats last night, which blew my mind. And I screenshotted it because I didn't want to get this wrong and be called out on it. And it's all to do with age versus size of walleye. By the age of 20, there's 1 male to 99 females, and that's like a 6.7 pound fish, or 26.2 centimeter long, or 26.2 inch fish. And only females get over 6.8 pounds or bigger, and unless it's a genetic anomaly. Like that blew my mind to watch. At age 1, the walleye come out 50-50. Age 2, males 55, females 45, which is a weird stat. Age 3, it's 60-40, male-female. And then it starts to switch around and go back. Like at age 9, it's 50-50, and then the females take over from there. So like when you're catching a 2.5, 3 pound fish, it could be 50-50, but as your bigger fish take off, like 5 pounds or more, it's like predominantly female from there. Like but to get a 2.6 pound walleye, that's 10 years, like to kind of get up in there. So when did they start that program?
the stocking,
Yeah.
I would say about 7-8 years ago, approximately.
In that neighborhood, I think.
Yeah.
Which would make sense. So now all of a sudden we're on fire. We're stocking that many fish. Obviously, we're going to have natural death and predation and everything, but soon it's just going to be loaded with 2-pounders.
Yes. We have a big problem out the Toronto and Hamilton area, which the cormorants obviously do their number on salmon stocking, walleye stocking, all types of stocking. So it's, I think, it's a fine line that the ministry, we can't kill them, but we have to control them because their numbers are overpopulating. So there are studies that a lot of the Toronto fish have actually moved to Hamilton and have gone back and forth over the time. And a lot of the Hamilton fish actually migrate from Hamilton to the Niagara River as well. So it's a cool study watching these fish move. But I have buddies who ice fish the Hamilton Harbor, and they do pretty well. There's not as much fishing pressure as people talk about. And there is a trolling and casting program as well. So it's neat to be so close to the city and be able to get, that type of bite.
So not a bunch of size there because we're still new into it, but good numbers.
There are some good sizes out of Hamilton Harbor, like 7, 8, 9 pounders. Definitely.
There's even quitty fish to go to visit Toronto and look at. Yeah, they showed that on the television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Eerie, let's go back to, I jumped to Hamilton Harbor. Eerie, what are we doing? What's the best way to fish them there? Go. Somebody.
Well, let's talk about a summertime program. So we just spoke about a spring program. Once June and on goes on, like I was saying, those fish start migrating throughout the lake. And, the later you wait towards July or end of June, those fish are now all the way in the Eastern Basin, Central Basin. They've really migrated everywhere. And the bite's on. I mean, back to the saying, if you don't get your limit quick, doing something wrong.
Are we deep? Are we shallow? Like I was watching, well, you were over that a few weeks ago when we were watching that tour level gold. Was it you that put me onto that? Yeah. I've been watching that like crazy. Like that it's fantastic. But you start to see all the different techniques and everything they're going through to do. But, like that Eerie bite, what did you experience that day? Like, what was your fish count? What were you doing on that day that you had tremendous success? Was that a fish TV show? Can we reference the link here? Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So it's the summer one? Summer stuff?
Summer, spring?
So I fished, time was that? I had to go back and look at some notes, but probably more June, July, Eerie direction, like mid to the middle of the lake. And that was a deeper bite, cranks and spoons.
Yep.
A whole lot faster than we do here.
Yep. So what's the speed?
It's all over, but it's like 2.5 to 5.
As fast as your kicker can go.
Because they'll still hit it, and the faster you go, the less junk fish you get. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
But it, especially when you get into the spoons, right?
Yep.
Spoons have better action at the higher speeds. But lead core, dipsies, deep cranks, like 30, and even taking them a little deeper. But
so here at Quinny, it's like 2.5, 2.2 is kind of your max. And then as low as what, 1.5?
On 3 or 5. 1 more.
Yeah. 1. Yeah. Depending.
I think the blade you have, as long as it's turning, you're effective.
Well, and in all fairness, a lot of the Quinny stuff is cold water fishing. So slowing down and kind of.
Or if you're both going around ice chunks.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so we're racing around top speed. We're planer boarding. We're just, it's mainly a trolling program, or is there shoals that we're trying to hit out there? What are we?
Well, later summer, we're in super deep water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot of that.
Yep, I've done a lot of that, but I've also done, like a lot of the tournament guys will go to the shoals.
Yep.
They'll concentrate on less numbers, concentrating on bigger fish on rocky shoals. And they're close to shore. They're easy to get to. So
yep.
That's a big technique. Like Jeff said, crankbaits, spoons. I'm a big worm harness guy. A whack and tackle. Cherry bomb is their number one color.
Don't tell people about that one.
It's a good one. And that secret's been out for a while. A lot of tournaments for one on it. But there's a great bite on a harness bite doing 1.8 to 2.2. And on real worms, fake worms. I'm a real worm guy, but you can concentrate and stay in that zone a lot easier. And you get to fight the fish a little better than when you're running at 4 miles an hour at 4. But Lake Erie, we all know that's a fish factory. That is a place where most people go to fill their freezer. There is sport fishery there, but a lot of my clients I've taken, and when I go personally, I go to get my limit. Sometimes I'll take my kids, or last year I even took my mom. She wanted some walleye.
Was that where that giant fish photo came from?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we had some great, I mean, we got our limit in less than 2 hours, but then I moved to a shallower program because on Eerie, like Jeff was saying, we are catching fish down at 80 feet, over 100 feet of water. Those are not releasable fish.
Yep.
So once you get closer to your limit, you start raising your riggers or your dipsy divers or your long lines, and you start targeting shallower fish or move into the shoals. Go in, target 20, 30 feet of water, and those fish are a lot easier to release.
Yeah, the same day that I was there filming in that deep water, right, hardest behind dipsies was some leghorn stuff too, but the hardest behind a dipsy was the ticket right then. That same day, the NWT was at Dunkirk, and John Hoyer won it. Their classic on it was ripping swim baits. Yeah, like long week. He did the same week.
So we talked about this guy, and in watching all those tour level golds, I noticed that everybody is snapping a jigging wrap. Is this where we're going to a deep shoal or deep suspended fishing? I haven't done this, so I'm not going to pretend like I know anything about it. I've seen it. I'm like, all of those pros have boxes full of jigging wraps, and it's not for ice fishing. What are we doing, and what am I missing? Have you done it? Have you done it? Have we?
I think for one, they're in high percentage areas. Okay, these are not areas where there's one fish here, one fish there. They're in a higher percentage area, and they're looking for that aggressive bite.
So they're going to locate a school deep, suspended, or it doesn't matter?
Closer to bottom.
Closer to bottom. And we're just casting it out, letting it fall, snapping it over their heads? Somebody tell me how to do this.
It's a reaction.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a reaction bite.
Yep. You're not sitting there shaking it like we do when we're trying to close a deal on a big walleye, including in the winter. It's a snap and keeping it moving and reaction. And
what kind of rod? What kind of rod do we need? Like medium light?
A little more on it.
A little more backbone for bigger fish?
Medium, I would say, with snap. Okay. Yep. I know that there's one specifically coming out with 13 next year that's being developed specifically for that.
Very cool.
I personally like a longer rod, or shorter rod. When I'm doing jigs, I think there's a bigger trend in going into longer rods.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm back in the old day, you need a jigging rod? It's a 6.6 medium, And now I still have 6.6, and I'm like, no, I like my 7.6, 7.3, at least. Like other ways to search out is blade baits, right? Getting into the Wacom Tackle blade baits, just like your jigging, Rapala jigging wraps. Another way to get these fish reaction bite. Biggest difference is one vibrates, one doesn't.
And don't forget about that new jigging shadow wrap size 7 with no front hook and just that extra durability. It's already got a beef treble on it. That purpose is going to be money.
Going to fall a little faster too and get down to them quicker.
Yeah. Most guys are not tipping their minnows, tipping them with minnows when they're jigging that aggressively.
Correct.
Maybe ahead, and the way Jeff recommended, but for the most part, your reaction bite.
Got it.
Yep.
What else do we want to do on the Eerie? Like, is there anything else we recommend? Like, I feel like I had my questions about that. Obviously, the trolling bite, however you choose to troll it, is good. Is there any super secret kind of technique that you should be hitting?
Well,
on Eerie, or is it pretty straight up?
Guys are doing really well ripping big swim baits, like 5-inch swim baits. Like to the point you should have blisters on your hand at the end of the day.
Really?
Yeah.
And what's that mimic? There's just a certain bait fish that they're...
Rip. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a reaction bite again. And big fish.
You brought that up to talk about.
Yep.
Is that going to be related to catching these deeper fish?
So what I've done over the years, 30 years fishing the Bay Area or walleye fishing. When I first started, I wasn't as much as you see a walleye down 80 feet on your sonar, you're like, oh, let me send the rigger down, right? And I've seen the decline in certain bodies of water of our fishery and the size. So I try not to target if we're releasing fish. So more Bay Quinte oriented or another for a lake up north, I'm not going to target deep fish. I really don't want to hurt them. There's barotrauma. So barotrauma is basically The oxygen in their blood expands as they come up to our atmosphere pressure, and these fish, their eyeballs pop out, their swim bladders come out. They have a lot of problems, and they cannot be released. And even if you do release them, there's a good chance that they will not survive.
Yep.
So there are fizzing needles that are on the market. Very common for bass guys.
Yeah, that's. I was surprised you brought it up for this.
Yeah, and you can fizz a fish. Now, even though I'm only fishing 30 feet down, which is generally a safe-ish zone, who's to say that walleye wasn't down 50, 60 feet, shot up, ate the bait, and his thought was, I'm going to eat the bait and go back down to the pressure system I was at. But he wasn't. We brought him back up to the surface. We wanted to take pictures with him. We said, oh, wow, you're pretty. But by the time you do that, that fish, the air is expanded and they can't be released. So if you are wanting to release those fish and have a sport fishery, fizzing needle is an option. From what I understand, a lot of studies on average, there's a 66% chance of survival once you fizz a fish.
I ran into that this year in the Mazenot, not on walleye, but on a smallmouth. I had my daughter out. We were drop shotting 15 feet of water. Saw it on a Livescope, caught it. She wanted to kind of keep it around for a little bit. Kids are interested in fish. We throw it in the live well, and I don't know, like 15 minutes later, I'm like, okay, baby girl, it's time. Like, let's let the fish go. Walk to the back. There it is. Boop, belly up. And I didn't have any of my tournament stuff. I'm like, how in 15 feet of water? And then it might have been you I was talking about. Like, those fish, just because you caught it in 15 feet doesn't mean that, a minute before that, he wasn't at 50 feet and he just came to the top of the rock pile and then decided. And that was that. So
I think there's a lot of factors associated with that. Even I've had some days on Quenya in the fall where a lot of my fish started blowing up. Like, you put them in the well, you take pictures, or you want to release them, you're like, he feels tight. And then I have the next day, the same baits, same depth, they all release perfectly, and they're not as tight in the belly filled with air. So I think also there's a possibility that the pressure system outside plays a difference on what's going on.
Yeah, I would never use the fizzing needle as an excuse to fish deep.
No.
no.
I have had some success where, this is going back quite a few years now, but I remember it at 7 in the morning when we caught 12.5 pound fish, and when I was taking the hooks out, you could see that the stomach was pushing out, air bladder was pushing the stomach out. So I fizzed that fish and put it in my live well. And at 4 o'clock that afternoon, just kept keeping an eye on it all day.
Yep.
It was in there by itself. Just kept checking on it, and it was looking great. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like that fish had never been caught. So I feel like that one had a high success rate.
Yep.
That one was going to survive. But I would never go out and, push the limit because I have a fizzing needle.
Yeah.
But to have a fizzing needle in your boat for that, again, that was 150 feet back on a husky jerk.
Yep.
We're not fishing deep, but that fish came up, and
yeah. Well, that's what I learned. Is you should keep it in your boat at all times.
Yeah.
Just in case.
I agree. But as Jeff said, don't fish deep, guys. If you really care about that fishery, especially in sensitive bodies of water like we have here in Quinte, where those fish are 20-year-old fish and, a very small population compared to what Lake Erie has, keep those baits higher. Target the aggressive fish, because the aggressive fish are up high is where they're feeding. That's where they want to bite well.
Yep.
Down deep, that's like, my analogy was, we just went to the buffet. We went up a couple times, and you bring me another plate, I'm not going to eat it. So target the high fish where they're aggressive and they're hungry.
Yep.
All right. I was reading something last night, and Greg and I already kind of talked about it. I haven't dropped this bomb on you yet, but Greg strongly disagreed with it. I'm not sure. But I was reading a bunch to get ready for this to try and keep up with you guys. And it was talking about Walleye Vision. Obviously, we all know that they see chartreuse green and bright orange as the best. Red and orange is the best. Greens and yellows as a close second. and blue and purple is almost the worst for them to see, which kind of shocked Greg a little bit, and shocks me once you kind of had your reaction to it, because we all know purple on Quinny's like pretty special, right? Especially in that fall bite. But their eye cones allow them to see them the worst, and they actually don't distinguish between blue and purple. After reading all that, I was reading about their eye cones, their structure, and they were saying that, I think this was an Outdoor Canada article that I was reading and watched the video on. They were saying that because their eye cones are so big, and they're some of the largest in animals, period, found worldwide, from 5 feet back, when they look at your lure and they see tiger striping or any of the fine detail, they can see it. The moment they make the decision to come in, think of it like pixels on a TV. If you had bigger pixels, everything becomes fuzzy and blurry. They can't see the fine detail when they get up close. So when we're trying to finesse them, at the last minute, ice fishing or doing whatever, and we're like, why aren't they biting? We're going to change this out. We're going to, look for the fine detail in the pattern. They can't see it. Unpack all of that. Do you guys agree? Disagree? When you think of all the circumstances, like again, had purple and blue are the worst to see, but it's a go-to color for trolling. Is that not weird to you? Do you guys disagree with that article? Agree with that article? Too deep sighs there. Too deep sighs.
We'll just dig into it. So you can have 2 brand new cranks, one sat in your dash of your boat, got a little extra sun faded, and it's taken all the fish because it just muted just a little, just subtly different.
Yep. Subtly.
And that's the one. So is it that there's noticing that from 5 feet and further back? Is that what's happening? Is that what they're saying?
They're saying that they have excellent binocular vision.
That there will be one that's slightly different.
Yep.
They want that one.
They're not saying that they're totally blind. They're saying that from 5 feet back, it's like they have a set of binoculars on. From 5 feet, they're like, they're zooming in, they're seeing that detail.
I think years ago we used to say, how many days age? It's like, how many days have you had it?
Very common fading my lures, and also rotating from one side to another. Make sure you got it even.
Yeah.
But I remember a good scenario on the bay here in Quinny. Talking to a bunch of guides, it might have even been with you, Jeff. There was a certain lure that had blue top, a white belly, but the same lure had also, one of them had a red dot right below the little ring, right? Okay, so it's just a little red spray right here. They would only bite the one with the red spray. Okay, that little dot. I mean, it's just a with the air gun and the paint gun. So we couldn't get bit on the other one. You call your other buddies. I'm like, I'm on a hot bite. Do you have this bait? Yeah. Put those 2 out. One with the red dot, one without. And they were identical. Only hit the one with that little red dot. So I find it hard to believe that 20 feet away, they could see that red dot, and that was the reason. But closer in, maybe that was the reason. I don't know. But that little detail definitely made the difference.
So that's the next part is we're out fishing, and we assume that the walleye eat from behind, correct? Most of the time? Majority of the time?
Side action too.
So there's the old T-bone, right? Where we'll come in and grab it like this. No back hooks were done, just the middle or front.
But we'd agree that they're very aggressive on that day. Like, they're on fire. The fishing's great.
And they'll come out and
hit it?
That is, yeah.
So that's the next part is, we look at all the lure color, shapes, everything else. What detail could you see from back there? And now introduce it going like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So is it when the lure goes past them and then they set up to come in behind, have they already made that decision from 5 feet? Their vision is there. I've made the decision. Now I don't care. Now I'm coming in from behind, and the fine detail doesn't matter when we're talking trolling. We get so sucked into to all this stuff.
Jake, can I ask you on that one with the red dot underneath? Plastic or balsa? Plastic. So controls in place, those baits should be pretty darn identical.
They were the same manufacturer. Same everything. Yep, just that little red dot. And I'm talking a pinky fingernail size.
Just going on Ben's from the following profile is there's something slightly different. That it's not the red dot. It's actually there's something on that.
So my theory a lot of times on these baits, everyone's like, oh, it's got a nice blue top and it's got a nice yellow dots and a teal side. I'm looking at the orange on the belly. A lot of times I'm thinking, if Jeff calls me and says, hey, I got bit on this husky jerk, first thing I ask, what color is the belly?
Yep.
Right? Just more important to me than sometimes the top. So my theory is more under fight than maybe a side fight. But
Does purple not disappear under 10 feet? Or does it change to blue?
Yeah, all picking shades of gray.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember I was about 18 years old. I was scuba diving, and I cut my knee on an 80-foot wreck. I was down 80 feet. You know, you're wearing a short wetsuit.
Did they try to fizz you?
No, that too. I cut my knee on the wreck, and you know, you're young, and you look at your knee, and you're like, oh, I cut myself. It's bleeding. Hope it doesn't attract sharks. And then you're looking, and this is down south. I'm like, oh my God, my blood is green. And that was one of the first times I'm like, ooh, color, ooh, this fish. This is something that I should pay attention to.
Huh.
So red was green down at 80 feet.
Yeah.
And a lot of them go green, then the gray as you go even deeper. So, and again, what our eyes see and what a walleye eye see or fish eye see could be different.
Yep. Yep.
Either way, they are seeing it. It's just how they interpret it.
Well, Bruce Tufts often talks about in all of his studies how the fish don't care about color. And I think every angler pushes back on that. Me selling lures, I certainly want everybody to believe that color matters. But Bruce has done study after study after study. These are bass that color just is not a factor. And color leads to shade, right? So maybe he's right in the sense of color is color, but a bright red versus a dark red might have a different shading and a different result.
Correct.
So I've always meant to sit down and talk to him a little more. We've done some, interview stuff together, but I always wanted to understand, like, when you say color doesn't matter, does that just mean shades don't matter either, or they don't care at all about color and shades? They have to care somewhat. I think over years of experience say that it matters.
Let's just talk fish. You've been salmon fishing with me how many times?
Couple.
We have a certain favorite paddle.
Yes.
Color head.
Yep.
Or matters.
I personally went on a smallmouth fishing trip with my good friend Greg, and we were back at the hunting camp, and he said pink is the only thing that works in this lake. And at that time, I was like a black-blue Gary Yamamoto Senko. I'm like, nope, this catches everything. Catches it in the Maz, catches it on the bay, catches everywhere. He says, all right, let's do it. So we take one trip around this lake, and him and Jimmy caught 42 smallmouth to my 0. We came back on the dock, and he says, are you ready to give up? I said, yep. So he gives me his stupid pink Senko, and I throw it in, and 4.5 pounder, like immediately, like 4.5 pounder. I was like, all right, so color has to matter somewhere. And then when I got back and I started looking at the sales and helping people in store, they come in and buy pink Senkos. I'm like, fishing back north? Yep. Okay. So I started to clue in very quickly that for some reason up north, pink seems to really matter. That bubblegum morning dawn, for some reason, that's just that. Is pink a thing for walleye fishing anywhere? I haven't. Yeah.
They are generally, yeah, I think all colors, depending on the lake, the color of the water, there's a lot of reasons why.
My number one blade and dipsy combination on Eerie was pink.
Yes. See, pink's just hasn't been a thing.
They played. I have buddies and fish hair jigs.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
All they want is black.
Yes.
You know, black is black.
Easy.
A lot of colors, but like, let's say this color pattern, I know I've caught fish on quitting on, right? On those hair jigs. So
Yeah.
I think when it's black, it's the contrast.
Yeah.
So for pink is lighter, right? More like white, where the black blue is black.
Yep.
So it's contrast.
Easier for them to find and see the silhouette in dirty stained water or deeper, darker. Like I know at a couple different spots on the bay where it's 20 feet plus, a lot of guys will go out with brown or black, hair jigs and go and rip them out there. So I'm not surprised.
Big difference too is what's that doing up this first week? Are we overcast? Are we high sun? I think also plays into color.
Yeah. So a walleye chop or not. So fishing up north, I don't have any experience. I hear about, Lake of the Woods and up in that direction, how everybody wants to walleye fish up there, and they want to kill off all the smallmouth because they just eat the walleye. Like, they don't even care about bass up there. Have you guys fished up there? I haven't.
I have not fished on Lake of the Woods, but not too far from it.
Yep. And what's it like there?
So I was up there last spring, and we were just in a transition from fish had left post-spawn areas, moving towards summer, and everything was kind of messed up. Yep. So we got there, and they said it's been a struggle for a few days because the fish were. But for us, we got them right on shore. But again, so many factors. There had been 100K winds for a few days pushing one direction. So on the wind blown, certain type of structure, wind blown when wind was blowing into little coves, when you get some rock, the right type of rock, the fish are right on shore on that. So we're catching them like 3 to 5 feet of water on jerk baits and our good Mr. Jerk, Chris. Yeah.
I can't believe that the American side hasn't used that, like the colors and everything in the jerk.
In the mares, actually. Mares too.
Christian, he came out, it was last year was the...
I will say this 3-inch mare is probably my go-to plastic.
And they expanded mares this year, right? There's more sizes.
Yeah.
And 4 new colors, I think, was
This perch, any body of water on the planet, 3-inch that's probably my starting point.
So you're gonna take that, you're gonna hook up like a neon moon eye jig or something. Yeah. You're gonna cast it out.
And then snap it back.
Snap, small hops, whatever the bite.
I'm gonna try everything until I figure it out. That with the TPE plastics, there is a new nye that's coming out. It's a tungsten, and they've changed the hook keeper because anybody who's tried to use TPE plastics knows it's a struggle.
It is a struggle.
Yeah, so the new keeper is designed for TPE, so it'll slide up onto it and then hold better.
Yes.
So that's coming.
I think it's in.
Tungsten. Yeah.
I think it's in the warehouse. Yeah.
Good.
They
are nice. They're tungsten, so it's not a whole lot smaller because it's coated tungsten. The interior is tungsten.
Yep. They were saying that they're forecasted 60% light. So like the demand on these things when they launched, they were off by 60%. So they're behind the 8 ball because every dealer, everybody sees the value. Yep. They know they're going to sell them. They know it's going to be hot, and they were off by 60%. Like that's so they're going to be tough to get. So
well, I only have a few. So
yeah, exactly. So these companies have, in case our viewers don't know, like massive testing facilities where they have tanks and they're pushing current and they're seeing how their baits track. I know all about Berkeley's, and I know that Rapala has some pretty serious facilities. But you guys both have told me out of the package, these things are perfect. They run perfectly straight. Is that true?
Yeah, it's tank tested. So with all crankbaits, first thing you do when you're trolling is you put it in the water and you watch and make sure it's tracking straight, because if not, it kick out, especially at higher speeds.
So we're suggesting that some other brands, none in particular, like you could put them on and maybe the hooks are unbalanced or everything's not perfect. Like I know it's significant. I just haven't seen an example.
Give it to Rapala that when their baits come out compared to some other companies, they are definitely tuned really well. But we've all got that favorite bait, looks like this. It's all beat up. It's taken tons of fish. That fish may roll while it's in the net. Yep. And it may bend the eye just a little to kick it out right or left. It's something that a good angler should always pay attention to. So almost every time when I put out my baits, I do let it back 20 feet or so I can see it, give it a pull. Like Jeff said, it's a speed thing. They'll kick out to the side, and you can always fine-tune it a little more. It's something you should always pay attention to.
How do I tune my brand new bait?
Take your needle nose pliers and take the eye and just roll it just slightly. micro.
I don't have time for that. It means I'm buying Rapala. All right, fair enough.
Well, when you get that hot one and it starts kicking up because the big fish rolled in the net, you want to get it back in the water to get it.
No, I sell tackle for a living. You need to buy 2 or 3, so when that happens, you just grab your fresh one.
Going back to be tank tested, and they have all these facilities to do this. I'm pro staff with a lot of companies. You're pro staff with Rapala and a lot of other companies. You have your favorites.
I'm not pro staff for anybody.
But a lot of pros like Jeff and I, we test these baits before they come on the market. We do a lot of testing on these things just to make sure that they are perfect. So when they come on the market, colors, hooks, split rings, everything is made sure that they are proper.
Yeah.
I know with this one here, the gold miner, one of the guys that was testing this on Eerie, he was given 5. They looked all the same, but there's microscopic differences to all 5. And they all had a number on it. And so he could identify which one was out producing, and they just kept making revisions and setting them. And he went through quite a few revisions until they got the one that was getting the most, not just the right action, running at the right depths and everything else, but actually triggering bites.
So I was going to wait till the end to do this to both of you, but you guys fished a tournament in the fall this year, and the rumor, the doc talk was that was that the bait? I know that might not be the color, and that'd be ignorant to ask the color, but.
So that was a hot bait. In a similar pattern.
Yep.
Location. And it did catch fish for us during the tournament, but our stable of the Deep Husky jerk was the one that caught the most fish, but we did catch fish on it too.
I will say I had a great time with Jeff on the boat. It was a tough bite for everybody. I mean, guys were struggling, guys coming in with 0 fish, maybe 1 fish, under 5 pounds. Jeff and I had 5 over 10 pounds that day. So we had a fantastic day. It was fun fishing with Jeff. I mean,
we did something completely different than everybody else.
We won't ask you what that is. We'll let you keep your secrets.
But those were the baits. Those are the 2 baits we had in the water.
This was a last summer release, I think.
Late summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
had them maybe the end of August.
I remember the bite went on and the doc talk started, and everybody was mad that we weren't stocked with them yet. And I knew it was out, but nothing had drawn me to bring that in yet. We'd tried some of the deeper stuff before, and I was kind of nervous of it, but then all of a sudden...
Well, being honest, on Lake Ontario, the first day I tried them, we had 6 rod spread. So I put 3 huskies in 3 of those, and one of the fish came on a husky, and the rest came on those.
Fair enough. It's time and place. Basically, if I'm going to fish deeper, I'm going to go for the gold miner, but I'm still going to have my staple in.
One thing I'll say also, difference between a gold miner and a husky, or a different manufacturer, the rattles. And the rattles are smaller in a husky. It's a tight wobble. You've got a bigger wobble on the gold mine with bigger rattles, more noise. So sometimes that also absolutely profile size.
So that's a great topic there. So this one's got 3 smaller rattles and then 1 big knocker that it's really loud, but it's sound. And then there's days where they don't want to rattle, and that's where like your tail dancer and those types of baits are great. But it's also, if you look at the size of the bill on this thing, it's really flowy.
So in comparison,
yeah,
big difference.
So this bait is really nose forward, which gives a wide action. But I think what makes this so good is that we fish this like late in the year, and when you start slowing the boat down, I think it's just got that perfect action at slow speed, where a little earlier when you're fishing a little faster. And this is really good, I think, in the summer and early fall. But it continues on through too. But it's not just about the size and the shape. The shape of that bill is how is going to react in the water and the angle that the bait runs at. So your stick baits with the shorter bill are going to run more horizontal, and as the bill gets bigger, it nose down.
You pause a bait too, right? When you have a lot more air, it's more buoyant.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as neutral in the water on that pause. So gives that reaction time for a fish to strike.
Yeah.
If it is raising high, then it's more of a forward pull lure as well.
Yeah.
It's that same day, or was it a day or before or after, where we were stalling, and then
I think we did it.
and we gathered it and we were preventing fish. Yeah, like stall the boards, going exactly what he's talking about here. So that pause, what's happening on the pause, and then back into gear again. Bam, fish up, fish were.
It's like a jerk bait.
It's like they were following it for a while, and they needed that change, that speed change.
Happened multiple times.
I mean, obviously we've heard of turning to speed up, slow down, do all that stuff, but we're talking a full like pause, jump start, go.
Sometimes all I do is open the bail,
Yep.
get it slack for a second, and then re-engage. Yep, bam. Yep, that's all it takes.
I used to fish with a buddy of mine, Mike Phillips, and he would sit there. You remember Mike? He would sit there and hold the rod and pull it back and then drop it. And all day, and I mean, this guy's a bodybuilder. So, I mean, he would this and that all day. And I've musky fished with Mike Phillips, and he's doing the same thing with big plowing baits and getting that reaction bite, putting a couple more fish in the box.
It's how I grew up. Tin boat, rod in the hand,
Yep.
pumping it.
Yep.
Still see that a ton. Yeah. Something that blew my mind, we were talking before, you were saying that the color of fish meat from Eerie to the Bay of Quinte is significantly different.
Absolutely.
And then we were at the Ottawa Sportsman Show hanging out with Rob Argue, and he was talking about blue walleye. So let's spend a couple minutes, let's talk about different colorations, different meat, different, all of that. Like that, that kind of blew my, I knew the bigger the fish, the darker the meat, the worse it tasted. Like most guys are, if it's 6 pounds or bigger, they're going to throw it back.
You're a hunter.
Yep.
If your deer are eating certain things,
Yep.
they have a different taste. So same thing with walleye. At Lake Erie, it's a smelt population for the most part. So smelt are sweet tasting fish, and deep fried, they're like popcorn. They're delicious. I love them. It's one of my favorite things. So Quinte here, we do have a big shad population, and that's what these fish are eating. They're oilier fish. They also grow a lot longer in Bay of Quinte compared to Eerie. The turnover is a lot different. So age-wise. So the color of the meat here on Quinte is a little bit creamier or an off-white, as opposed to Lake Erie, I find is a lot whiter meat.
Yeah.
Similar to fish up north as well. They're more of a white. A Kawartha fish, for example, is a white flesh. And I think anything that's eating at more of a shad base and an older fish will obviously have a different color. Flesh color, we're talking.
Yep. Yeah, like the meat itself.
But what's cool is, like, you can look at a picture of a fish and you're like, well, it could be Eerie or it could be Winnipeg, but that's not a Quinte fish.
Yeah.
Right? The outside color pattern is neat. The Quinte's got a beautiful goldfish. I mean, yes, it's a picture fish.
Yeah.
Eerie fish tend to have that white belly, green top, not a dark goldy top.
Yep.
Like Winnipeg.
Yeah, like the Lake Quinte fish. Yeah. So it's cool to look at a picture, and before you even read it, you're like, oh, I know where that one's from.
Yes.
So blue walleye, has anybody caught a blue walleye?
Yeah. I can't say I filleted one though.
Yeah, but I have not filleted one. Yeah, but I have caught a few in the northern lakes. Never one in this area, Eerie or Quinte area.
So what is that? That's like a genetic mutation? Is that what makes them blue? Is it sediment in the water? Do we know? Do we care? They're just cool. They're blue.
I don't want to say an answer, but I think what I've heard is that it's a specific type of walleye. That when there's one in the lake, they can reproduce with each other and actually produce more. But there's a lot of walleye we catch on Quinte where you'll see the blue tips on the end of the walleye. Yeah, and even the mucus that comes off of them sometimes has that bluish tinge.
Yep.
But I think that's still different than your traditional blue walleye.
Well, I'm going to float it out to anybody who's watching this. If you can give the three of us an answer as to what's up with the blue walleye, put the comments below so we can go back and look at it. Because I want to catch one. Like, I'm hooked. I think that'd be great, but I don't understand. So
And I believe traditionally they are smaller.
yes,
Not many 10-pound
Yeah.
blue walleye.
Yeah, the ones I've seen were 1 to 4.
Yeah.
well, this was Rob Argue, and he's got a few lodges in northern Quebec, or in Quebec, I should say. Yeah. Northern is relative to where you live, and it's far more north than where I am right now. But he said that there's a bunch of blue walleye there, so we'll turn it over to those watching the podcast. This would be like, what is?
Fun area to fish.
Yeah. Have you done it?
Not at his specific places, but not yet anyway. Need to go check it out. But a little bit into Quebec, and earlier in the season, well, I've been in northern Quebec too, that's just, if you've never done it, going way up north, like real forest, way up there east of James Bay kind of thing. It's just ridiculous fishing for every species.
Yeah.
Fish that have never seen baits.
We had a great time. I've done a couple trips to Kasagami Lodge with Lonnie Kame. He was writing an article. The first day we got there, we're like, he was gonna, the lodge, Charlie, the lodge manager, was gonna set us up with a guide. And we arrived late with the float plane, and Charlie said, just go out, fish your own, and tomorrow we'll get you the guide. We went out, caught 60 walleye. We felt like we were kings. 3, 4, 5 feet of water, muddy water.
Yep.
As soon as you put a jig and a grip down, anything, a bare hook, we caught them on. They actually bit. And right under the boat. You didn't have to do anything. It was unbelievable. Nothing like I experienced before. So we walked through the lodge that morning, that evening for dinner, like, we caught 60 walleye, like, we know what we're doing. We're professionals. Yeah, we were very humbled. They all started laughing. And the next day, we did well over 200 walleye.
Wow.
So it was just a numbers game.
Yeah.
It was just boom, 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 boom. And we actually still pikes fished that day. So, our numbers could have been better. But it's amazing, that type of fishery. If anybody gets a chance to go up to northern areas, fly-ins, lodges like this, take advantage. The fish are uneducated.
I'm going to go to a point, even on those little, like they say that 95% of the fish are in 5% of the water, and that 5% moves around during the year, right? So it's location, right? And the location changes. Our Quinny walleye, they migrate, right? They're not always going to be sitting at Rush Bar all year long. Yep. But there's a time when they're there, a couple of times when they're there. But anyway, even in those northern lakes, you might be moving around until you find that spot where they are really loaded. And that's where between the 60 and the 200 is probably in location. Was probably the big.
It was different location and similar presentation. It was all location.
So you found a 60 fish C game, and the next day on the A game. Yeah.
I understand Quebec to be an absolutely fantastic walleye fishery that we got to go and hopefully maybe we can all go as a group one day and do like that.
I just remember taking a tin boat with a 5-horse. I don't even think it was a 6, across to this one spot. And when we got there, it was as fast as you could get a bait to the bottom. It wouldn't touch bottom.
Yep. I've got a buddy, he used to own Scorpion Optics out in Winnipeg, and like doing that whole Manitoba fish through there, like I want to do Lake Winnipeg in the worst way, maybe through the ice, but even hearing all the trolling stories and stuff that they do out there, like just getting out and doing more and more in Canada and trying everything and every way to catch walleye is something that's on my bucket list for the next little bit. But
awesome.
Coming on home to Quinny, like we've kind of done the gamut. We've kind of started in the spring and moved around the province. And then we've got to talk about Quinny again, because I mean, we talk about Eerie being a walleye factory, and then we talk about Quinny being legendary. Somebody break that and unpack that. Like, how is Eerie a factory and Quinny legendary in that sense? And I'm biased because I live here, right? Jeff's probably biased. You travel all over.
I travel all over.
Yet you still find your way to Quinny.
I do.
It's the thrill of the hunt.
Yep.
Yeah. If somebody could just figure out how to make the paint dry faster.
Yes.
3-legged chair under the tree. Yeah, we have a lot of sayings on Quinny that we've joked about over the years of, some days the bites are on fire and some days it doesn't matter how good or how much knowledge you have. You cannot force feed a walleye if they're in a negative mood or the pressure system and stuff. So it's definitely cool. But what brings me back, it's, being the guide and probably guiding 95% of the time now with clients is the smile that goes on the client's face. Yeah, they see, they're like, that's a walleye? No way. And, pull out a 10, 12, 9, 15-pound walleye. You're like, oh, my God. And that is unbelievable. That joy that I don't know if that's innocent joy or it's just true joy that they have in their heart, that it's amazement. So
I remember a few years back taking, who's now our local MP, out, and that was his first day fishing Quinty for walleye and maybe walleye in general. I'm not sure, but I remember him skiing in a 9-pound walleye saying, "Oh, I got a baby," because we were on one of those days. One of those, and like, in one day, your walleye fishing is now wrecked.
Yes.
Because you're skiing a 9-pound saying you got a baby.
That's
We have something special here.
Quinny's a weird beast in the sense of there's obviously a good population throughout the summer, but winter, fantastic. Trophies in the fall. What's driving that? Yeah, you guys, we kind of talked about it before. We talked about migration on the far end of the province. What's the migration doing, and what are the fish doing here that makes it that, it's the trophy capital of, I think it's listed in the top 10 places to fish in North America for walleye.
Our walleye act like salmon. Access to big water and big bait, just like our salmon. The LY schools.
Yeah, I mean, having the bay being connected to Lake Ontario, there's huge migration patterns, not only just on the walleye, but the bait and other species. And this is a special spot. So we'll start in the spring. You guys have some really good rivers and shoals that they'll spawn on, mainly rivers. And it's prime spawning areas for these fish. And then as soon as their spawn is done, they don't hang around in the bay too much. They are beelining back out to the lake. And then they're a lot harder to find.
Yep.
Yeah, out there.
Especially early in there.
Yeah. So, very cool bite or watching the migration. And, I'd call some buddies of mine because I'm not always here. I don't live in the area like you guys. Are they in yet? Are they in yet? Are they in yet? Yep, they're in. Okay, I'm coming. So
they're coming back off the lake and they're chasing bait fish in, and they're coming through the system up into the bay in late fall, and then they're just kind of hanging around, and that's what makes the ice fishing so good. They're camping out all through the Bay of Quinny, and then hanging around until springtime. They're going to spawn, then they're out again. All right.
These big ones are just getting bigger as they develop their eggs.
Yeah. Yep.
Over the winter.
Yes.
But kind of bringing it back around to something I mentioned at the beginning, like it's all of the factors. So it's not just having the newest, hottest bait, but it's looking at, Greg mentioned, what's the sun doing, what's the wind doing, what's the water temperature.
Yeah.
Current is a big one. Like our bay, the Bay of Quinny is a river. It's not static water. So as you get into narrow areas, you got even more current.
Yeah.
But even in the bigger areas, there's still current. But if you think about it, I'm just going to make the math easy. Say on static water, you're getting bit at 2 miles per hour, but now you're at a 1 mile per hour current.
Yep.
If you are going, if you're trolling at, let's say, 1.5 against a 1 mile per hour current, your bait is doing effectively like it would be doing at 2.5 miles per hour. So the action of that bait is acting like you're trolling at 2.5 miles per hour. You take that boat and turn it around, and now you're at 0.5 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And the bait's barely even moving.
Yep.
So measuring your current and figuring that out. So when you turn the boat around, you might have to speed up to match that. So you might actually have to do, if you were at 1.5, you might have to do 2.5 to get bit.
Yep.
And like there's devices, fish hawks, Scotty's got the Seeker coming out. There's different things that you can do to measure that. But another thing you can do is just take a small weight, put it on some line, and see when you touch bottom one direction, measure that line, go back and basically slow or speed up your boat until you touch bottom at that same amount of line. And that's your speed that you need for the change. That's an old school way of doing it.
That's a good way. It's simple. It's easy. Everybody's got it.
It is a factor, because how many days can you only get bit going one way until you figure it out going the other way?
Yep. I think my favorite thing to do in the bay has been to get into the weeds and go rip jig them.
Oh, yes.
And that was explained to me that if you think about walleye have giant eyes, so when the sun comes up, they want to go somewhere either deep or they want to go somewhere shaded. So they head deep into the thick weeds, and then you just go and knock on their living room door and deliver them a nice pizza for them to eat. So I love the bay for that. Obviously the bay's quite trashy and it has a lot of weed structure in it. Yep.
Dreaming of it right now.
A great scenario last year where I had a single client on the boat. He's a really good client of mine, and we were casting in the weeds, and we'd fished this spot before, and we were catching good fish and having a great time. I looked at him, and I had these blade baits, the Whack and Tackle blade baits. And I looked at him, I said, I'm marking some fish with the Livescope, not in the weed bed, but just off in the sparse weeds. I'm like, do you mind just grabbing the camera? I'm going to do 1 or 2 casts. I need to get some promo video. I cast it out. Boom, hooked up, 5-6 pound walleye, all on the video. And it was an amazing, scenario that you're casting one area, but you want to try something new, and it produced. So
there's something about it. It gets you going, right? Like, and especially like forward facing sonar again. Like, how many times have you seen the walleye in the weeds? You're like, there he is, and you sharpshoot him, and that's just like, yeah, I think that feels good.
And disappointed when Ben tells me no. Yeah.
Last year we didn't do well in this tournament, but we were on the edge of a weed bed, and we were watching, and we were literally, there's one, and we just kept picking them apart, and we just kept seeing fish there, and we made the mistake of staying there and just we caught. And there was just never, there was size there a few days before, and there had been history there of size, but it was neat to just literally sit there and pick them out of the weeds and say that there he is. And
I think if we spent time in our last spot, we were there about an hour or so. If we spent there all day or that scenario, we would have done much better. But
yeah.
Location.
Well, it's always funny here on every tournament. It's like, the question isn't who's going to win. The question is it going to be the jiggers or is it going to be the trollers? And it, like,
that same day, if I think it's the same tournament, I fished 12 spots before I got a walleye.
Yeah.
12 spots, man. Yeah.
It's jigger troller. What is it?
Out of the far end and worked my way back.
Yep.
Didn't get cut until I got back.
Well, we did a Rapala trip. Yeah, I had a corporate trip last year, and some of our top producing water, usually at that time of the year, we don't have to go too far, but this year that water was not the greatest producing water for walleye. And I believe, Jeff, me and you both did 27-mile runs each way to put these guys on some fish.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what it takes. Yep. Yes.
So I think we've bored everybody long enough, or hopefully given them a bunch of info, but I just wanted to we've got a whole pile of tackle out here, and I wanted to do a shameless promotion. Obviously, Jeff and Greg are well-promoted, well-respected pro staffs for various companies. So I'm just going to be really shameless about it, Ben Shapiro style, and say, guys, pick out what you want off this table and take 5 minutes to really plug what makes the lures special. We'll just talk lures, but pick out what lures you want to tell everybody who's watching about. Maybe be a geek about it. Maybe, just a snapshot of, like, I know Greg's probably going to tell us why Wacom worm harnesses are so special, but take a minute, grab what you want to talk about, off this table. I'm gonna grab this and this. What do you guys grab whatever you wanna?
Oh, you just stole it.
Here, take that.
Sure, pass it down. Good.
All right. Shameless plugging for sponsors, but passionate about our lures. Who wants to start?
Go ahead.
Let's talk about presentations first, right? A lot of times I'm an offshore guy, sponsor with offshore. They've been great. They do have snap weight kits. They have tadpoles. So, and of course the planer boards that they're very famous for. So these are presentations that you can get with the planer boards. You can get them out to the side, get those spooky walleye. We spoke about them on the Livescope, how they do not like being near the boat. So planer boards are a must. In order to get your baits to dive down a little deeper, maybe not a deep diving bait, but a smaller bait like a CC or a frenzy minnow, whatever you're going to use, you can always use tadpoles, snap weights to get them down that extra bit. If they're only going to dive down 6 to 10 feet, you can always add a snap weight and get it down a little deeper. Off harnesses, the tadpoles are great as well. We use them. They have 3 sizes. You can get them down pretty deep at, harness speeds. So that's one way.
I want to throw a point about that. Crankbaits. Our friend Mark Romanek and his precision trolling.
Yep.
If you haven't seen his precision trolling, you want to check that out. But anyway, crankbaits, the bill. He has proven that speed does not affect the depth, the running depth. It affects how fast it gets to the depth, because it gets there faster at a higher speed, but it doesn't actually affect how deep it goes. Weight, when there's weight involved, like a snap weight, speed drastically affects it. But I think where that tadpole shines is that it's got a bill like a crankbait.
Yeah.
And I think it helps take a little bit of the variable out of the speed,
right,
that you're a little more consistent than just a straight snap weight.
Yeah.
So when you turn that boat around and your current adjusts, it's not, when your current is now slower, it's not diving deeper compared to just a straight weight like a snap weight. I think it helps narrow that adjustment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're great.
They are great. Presentations. What do you have?
Well, I'm going to throw this guy as another option for getting your harness down. Lake Eerie, but also on Quinny.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. There's even the little one size. Or sorry, what is that? So the little mini one. It doesn't actually trip.
Yeah.
Caught lots of walleye. Even like up in Big Bay. Yeah. Where it's just something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's also way we sometimes do it, call it a stealth dipsy, where maybe you don't want this big thing right in front of a lure, so we put a couple of the offshore snaps on each side of it, put 50 feet of line out, and then put your dipsy on like you do a snap weight, and that way you've got just something getting it down, but back farther away from when the fish are extra spooky.
Yep.
Yeah.
And look, we use when I salmon fish, or let's say Lake Erie walleye fish, we sometimes use the bag dive.
Yeah.
Just to get them down 80, 90 feet.
Yeah.
No problem. So,
yeah, spoons, cranks, you name it, anything behind any of the sizes of dipsies.
Those are good presentation ones, right?
Yep.
That we have on the table. I love running harnesses. When it's a harness bite, I much prefer to run a harness that over spoons. I'm just a meat guy, right? Even when I'm salmon fishing, I love my meat. So, black and tackle blades, quality fluorocarbon, quality swivels, quality hooks, very, very durable paint. You know what I hate is you buy a lure and everything flakes off. You get a couple fish on it. We spend $10, $20 on a lure and everything flakes off. So, good paint jobs. I love my blades.
Yep. What I noticed about fishing with you with those is you can buy that kit. What's the name of that kit? Where it's got like all the blades that you can interchange off it.
I don't know what the kit name is, but yeah, he does sometimes have the kits where you could put all your blades, and all these blades that he sells are interchangeable. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like this color, or you want a quick change and not retie, you could just clip the blade off. But we were talking about harnesses, single blade, double blade. So sometimes what I'll do is and he does sell them as a double harness as well, but you can always add 2 harnesses. It's a bigger profile, right? So if you have larger bait in the water column or dirtier water and you need to move more water to attract them in, put a double blade on.
Yeah.
And I've caught lots of 1 pound walleye on a double blade, so it's not going to turn them off.
That one tournament we won, I'll never forget. We were looking for doubles, and we didn't have any. And you were at the back. You were just retying all your own blades and your own harnesses. But the other thing that I never paid attention to, and you taught me to look for, is the back of the blade. So Wacom had like what? Green, silver, gold?
Yep, pinks in the back. This one's a pink one. Most of them are traditionally copper. A lot of harnesses on the market are actually silver, but there is the antifreeze color, and so there is variations, and I do believe it makes a difference.
Well, we know it makes a difference.
I think it's the first thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's the first thing they see from behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
That color matters.
Yeah.
Any other shameless promotion you want to do?
Well, we're on the Whack and Tackle blade baits. So these just came out this year in 2025. I tested them all year. I have caught walleye. I have caught pike, bass, perch, jigging for kings.
You told them.
Yes. We made videos.
Okay.
So put it out.
All right.
So I mean, blade baits are fun, and ice fishing, spring, summer, fall. They've always worked, so definitely something to get into. They are going to have 3 sizes. I believe it's a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, and a 1 ounce. So another thing to put into your arsenal. I love trolling, especially with clients. It's easy for me, but if I get a day off, I love holding a rod. Something about setting the hook, whether it be on a jig or a blade or anything else, it's fun.
Absolutely.
Can't set the hook trolling. I've been told that a couple times when I first started going with you. Hey, wind up for the big. No. Okay, we don't do that.
Go on.
Just totally can't do that. All right, I'll go next then. There's a couple things that we find here at home at the bay that obviously work really well, and they're super old school. This is a sure strike, so it's not truly the Eerie Deary. Everybody's trying to figure out what's happening with Eerie Deary. From what I understand, from, let's say, Port Hope to maybe Pembroke, the Eerie Deary is all the rage. But when you travel around, like nobody else is fishing this thing in Canada. It's not a big thing. But on the Quinny, you take an Eerie Deary in gold, and you can cast it, you control it. But this is the oldest school way in a tenor that I can think of that just catches a ton of fish. Like that's in store here at High Falls. We probably sell into the hundreds and hundreds of this just in straight gold. Maybe silver. And I bet you both of you have fished with that super old school primitive lure.
Well, it's something you can get right up against the edge of the weed, rod in hand, and trigger those fish that are in there.
Yep.
But it's very difficult to do with a set of boards and a crankbait.
No trouble hook on the back.
Exactly.
Snakes through the weeds really well.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of fish on them.
Yeah.
All right. So the CC shad, Quinny's best kept secret, is actually discontinued now. I know it broke a lot of hearts, but this is a springtime bait. It's going to be, 1.5 to 2.2? Is that what you guys kind of run them at?
1.5, what's this?
Yep. But the important part about it is it's a small bait profile. So early in the spring, fish are just hatching, coming out. So they start small, and obviously as the summer progresses and the fish grow bigger and eat more, you're looking for more of a longer body style. So people often overlook that. They go and start with, hey, I know I watched this podcast and they said that Husky Jerk's fantastic. Just remember, you want smaller bait profiles, flickers, CC shads, some of that smaller stuff. And then you want to progress to a bigger bait throughout the season. So I know that Bandit came out with walleye shad. We're going to have them stocked on Tackle Depot and at High Falls. And that might be a suitable replacement to this, but that bait is pretty much legendary for the Bay of Quinny. and probably many other areas. Something I got into last year, this is a thill. My favorite was actually the Kalen's slip bobber. And I started really dissecting how to get on top of like rock piles and different structures, cast it out. And the thing to note about a slip bobber and what was different, so you could put a minnow, you could put a crawler, anything on it. And some people say, well, why don't you just drop shot? But you cast that slip bobber out and your bobber suspended. And when you want to give that bait some action with the slip bobber, you're going to stay in the target zone and stay over top of those fish that you're pitching through, especially when you're using Livescope. And as you pull, you might get a little bit of action back towards the boat, but it allows that bait to move vertically up and down and rest back in the strike zone. Whereas when you're pulling with your drop shot, and I found this made a massive difference, bass included, when you're pulling on your drop shot, you're taking it out of that fish zone. So with the slip bobber, you're going to stay suspended over top of those target fish longer, and you're just going to pick whatever bait you want, whether it's live minnows, live worms, and you're just going to hang it out there and camp on top of the structure or the fish that you're targeting. So some kind of bobber system, that Kalen slip bobber, we sell them again on Tackle Depot. But that was a great system I started having some success with last year. I look forward to getting out and trying it again.
We had great success with those on slip bobbers with crappie as well.
Yeah. And when we say bobber, everybody sits there and thinks of, yeah, but everybody thinks of smaller fish. And it was actually Dave Mercer did a float and flatworm, I think, was what made me stop and think about it. And then I started doing YouTube research, and then I was like, oh, no, people are slip bobbering for walleye. And then I started playing it last year. I don't know if I had the right rod set up, but I had some success with it, so I'm going to work on dialing it in this year. And then we talked a little bit about walleye and their eyes and dark and light. So a lot more research behind this. The Rapala Mini Charge and Glow, or any system where you're going to light up your bait. Walleye eyes are basically designed for low light situations. And they talk about them being nocturnal feeders. I know you've done a lot of night. Well, both of you have done a lot of night fishing, but apparently it doesn't have that great of ability to find in the dark. So if you charge with photoluminescent light your baits, it actually it makes, I think the number was like a 60% difference. Like it is a massive difference at night to have a photoluminescent charge that'll maintain, which is different from like a UV glow. It's important that you have, that it has photoluminescent paint. But having any lure with photoluminescent paint and charging it and setting it down will produce significant results. So finally, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff, is these new Berkeley Fusion 19 hybrid jig heads. I think these are going to be neck and neck with the Moon Eyes. Like my entire walleye career revolves around the VMC Neon Moon Eye jig, but I just think that the profile and the shape of the head being a little more pointed is going to produce a different action, and let me be able to do some different things. So that with the Berkeley Maxent Flat Nose Minnow are going to be some go-tos for me this season, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, so what exactly is it? What am I looking forward to, or what have I had a lot of success on?
You shamelessly plug all of your stuff.
This right here is probably a go-to, a Moon Eye and a Mare. Any body of water, anywhere in North America, if there's got a walleye swimming in it, I'm going to have a rod tied up at that, and it's going to be one. If there's a rod in my hand and I'm not drawing, I'm starting there. It's proven for me. You can drag it, you can snap it, you can jig it vertically, you can do anything with it. It's a great action. What I like about it is you've got the right amount of durability to get enough fish per bait, but it also is supple enough that on the drop the tin kicks. That's quite hard to find plastics with that perfect balance, and they've nailed it with this one. When I get into the weed though, and I'm ripping it, the jerk is definitely a great bait, and that's where the tungsten version of Moon Eye is going to be. I get for the TPE style. So the CPE is the stretchy. They don't break, but you
take it out.
Sure, yeah. The stretchy, and they also float. There's buoyancy to it, but indestructible.
Yeah.
So with those tungsten moon eyes that will thread properly on the TPE baits, you can fish all day long on one bait.
And there's cost and time factors, like especially when you're tournament fishing. Like I can tell you, going through those max scent, you burn a lot, so it's costly, and then you're constantly having to replace them. Whereas when you get some of that out there, and you're off and rolling, and you're not constantly changing your bait and having them rip and then present funny, right? Because when you thread them on, they need to be perfectly straight. So I think the durability behind that, like if they can figure out how to infuse some scent to it, I think that'll make a big difference.
But from Quinte to the Northern Lakes, I might change colors around. There's a lot of different colors to go from, but you know, anything that's got the silvers and the coppers and more natural colors is going to work anywhere. But if they're a great bait, that's probably my number one walleye bait right there. But I am definitely a troller at heart, so, much like our good buddy Greg here. And this bait has been phenomenal, even though I've only had it for a quarter of a year. So looking forward to what it's going to do when I can actually fish it for the whole summer next year.
Next.
Yeah. And I can't go without talking about the Jigger wrap, because I wouldn't be sitting here without for that. That's how I got involved with Rapala, because I fell in love with this bait right here, and the fact that it's just got that hunting action and triggers bites, and it's such a versatile lure. You can fish it subtly, you can fish it aggressively. It catches a pile of fish. The new Jigging shadow wrap is phenomenal as well. And there's also the snap wrap. There's a Jigging wrap magnum. There's a whole series of glide jigging baits from Rapala, but they all have a purpose and are all great baits. And not just winter, as we talked about it. Get out there and snap those things in the sun or catch the big fish on.
For sure. Well, guys, I think we've entertained everybody long enough. Thank you very much for coming. We're gonna hope that there's a bunch of comments put below. So if you guys are bored one night, I'm gonna certainly pay attention. The web team here will pay attention, see what we can answer, and hopefully somebody answers us on those blue walleyes. So thank you very much. No Appreciate it. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you.
Greg, see you, bud. We'll see you on the water. Absolutely.